To order of the Hollister Planning Commission special meeting for August 31st, 2023. Commissioner Ross, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ross?
Present.
Commissioner Belong?
Present.
Chair Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Corona?
Present.
Commissioner Lenore?
Present.
Verification of agenda posting Friday, August 25th, 2023 at 11:57 a.m.
Okay, we'll have the approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I have none.
Okay. Is it okay to vote on approval of minutes that we didn't actually attend?
You can, as long as you're basically voting that you've read and understood them.
Okay, great, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
All three at once, Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, can I actually?
Oh.
I just wanted to make an amendment to one of them.
Okay.
The one on
I'm
August
sorry
10th.
about that. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. I didn't know if we were going in order or
Oh.
all together. On page 9 of 10, I just wanted to make sure that it is pointed out that Jeffrey Small, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth paragraph from the bottom. Just to add that he did explain that it would be very expensive to remove the toxins from the Best Road property prior to any building, and I think it's important for the taxpayers to know that.
Okay, thank you. Do you all accept that change?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, motion to approve with the, along with the change by,
I move that we approve the minutes of May 25th, June 22nd, and August 10th with the amendment as stated by Commissioner Ross on August 10th, as presented.
we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to public input. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the secretary before speaking. When the secretary calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the City Planning Commission. If you are joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
We do, Chairperson Henderson. The first speaker is Alex Siwak.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have two items from the August 10th meeting. First one is I really would like to support Mr. Joe Tanesia's idea that any commissioners or any council members should actually do at least a drive-by on the properties that they want to change the general plan designation on. Secondly, on the Meridian Meridian Road extension area. I sent emails to all of you this morning, and we have filed or attempted to file a tentative map at the current density, and you can see that even at 8 units per acre, it's pretty crowded out there on those roughly 43 acres. And if you look at the topo map, you can see the significant changes in grade there. And if you go to a medium high density, which potentially would be up to 60 units per acre. And by the pro forma in the BMR that's going to be coming up to be voted on at some point, I mean, you may have to go to 100 units per acre just to make the project financially feasible. So I'm not sure that designating that area as medium to high density is really a feasible way of putting, 4,300 units out there. So I think that it would be a good idea to reconsider that recommendation that you made. I think it was the very last item on August the 10th. I think everybody was a little bit punch drunk at 10:15 that evening. And so that's what I'd like to state. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker will be Mr. Rene Baez.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission and staff. I want to first thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rene Baez, and I'm a field representative for the NorCal Carpenters Union and also a resident of Hollister. I live in the Sunny Slope Village area. And I just want to talk about 3 simple things which will benefit the city of Hollister and any project or anything that gets proposed, and as far as like the housing element and everything else. And I believe these 3 things should also be basic labor standards. One is the use of apprenticeship programs, meaning every worker is trained to do the work correctly and also safely. Number 2 is healthcare for workers and their families. And number 3 is local hire. You see, projects that invest in apprenticeships, healthcare, and local hire is the right choice for construction workers and the family. This allows the workers and their families to actually live in the communities that they work in. And at the moment, we're still having to travel to San Jose, San Francisco, and past because we don't have any current projects that we can work on, right? And as we continue to plan and develop one of the greatest cities in the state of California, which is Hollister, I'd like us to kind of consider the use of hiring local, adding health care and prevailing wages to the projects. I think apprenticeship programs are a great thing for the youth. I don't see any, there's a lot of things that we're lacking in this city, a lot of things that we're doing great, don't get me wrong, but I believe we need to bring and raise the youth up into something, into a trade, something that they can look forward to and help build the future of this community. So I just want to thank you, and please take those into consideration when planning and building the future of this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other speaker cards, and I have no hands raised for general public comment.
Okay. Thank you. We'll close the public input at 6:10. So before we begin the agenda items, is there any conversations, disclosures that need to be made? I have one regarding item 4. I did have a conversation with Victor Gomez and the applicant where they described the project details, and I had the opportunity to ask questions.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to also disclose that I also sat in on a Zoom meeting with Mr. Gomez and the applicant on item number 4 back in October of 2022.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, we'll move on to, we'll start with agenda item number 1. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairperson Henderson. This will be Senior Planner Magda Gonzalez, and just give me 1 second and I'll open up the PowerPoint.
Hi, good evening. The first item is Site and Architectural Review 2022-6 for Starbucks. The applicant is actually requesting a continuance of this hearing to September 28th. They requested a study session with the Planning Commission that is tentatively scheduled for September 14th. So our request is to schedule it for September 28th.
Go ahead.
Just curious, that's a Interesting process there. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, they would like to get your feedback on what they're proposing on the design, the layout of the Starbucks.
They want a study session with the planning commission to do that?
Yes,
Shouldn't they just be submitting it to you?
they actually want to. Yeah, they want to get your feedback.
They
Based
get
on,
our feedback when they submit an application.
They have submitted an application. Yes.
Okay,
They
but we
just-
haven't seen it, so we're gonna see it.
Yes, on the study session,
Okay.
and that way they'll be able to modify based on any suggestions you may have and recommendations that staff has provided to them as well.
Okay,
So you would be able to take feedback from the 14th and turn it around for a meeting on the
28th, correct?
28th?
Yeah.
Okay.
they weren't ready for tonight. Special meeting, okay.
Okay, so what do you need from us? Do you need us to discuss a special meeting?
To approve the continuance
Okay.
to the date of September 28th, and then the study session for September 14th.
Okay.
And just to note on the study session, because this is at the applicant's request to hold the study session, there is a separate process that they go through and a separate fee in order to cover staff's time.
Okay,
Okay, I'm sorry, I need to open this up for public comment first before we do anything else. So I will open the public hearing at 6:13. Do we have any speakers?
oh, excuse me. Are we not just continuing it to date certain? So,
Well, he's opening the hearing on the continuance, if there's any public
oh,
comment
if there's
related
any
to that.
concerns on that.
Yeah, not the project itself, just
Okay.
the continuance.
Sorry, Chairman.
No problem.
I do not have any speaker cards. Let me just check online. I do not have any hands raised in the virtual audience.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing regarding the continuance. Is there any motions regarding the continuance?
I'll move that we continue to date certain of September, what was it, 14th? 14th. For special study session. But the first one is the 14th.
Yeah, the study session is on the 14th, and the actual meeting would be on the 28th.
Yes, Commissioner Lenore, if I may, the request is to continue the public hearing, so a decision-making public hearing on to September 28th, but staff would also like to bring this separately, which doesn't require a public hearing, but to the September 14th for study session where no decision will be made as well. So 28th is the date certain
Well,
that's
we're
being
gonna have
requested.
people come here and they can't speak on the special meeting.
No, they can. The public, so the reason that you're continuing to the date certain of the 28th is because it's already been publicly noticed.
I get that.
Okay, and so we want to continue the hearing, which is today,
Okay,
it was noticed for today, so we want to continue it to the date that it will actually occur, which is the 28th.
okay.
The study session is just an interim step.
No public hearing.
No, not on the 14th, but there will be public comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, that's different, so I got it straight. Thank you. So then, did I make that motion right? That I move that we continue to date certain to September 28th?
Okay, and did you get the special session in there too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess. I did mention it.
I don't think it needs to be in
It
the
doesn't
motion,
need to
but,
be, is what I
but
think
Oh.
we said, yeah.
Okay.
Just September 28th for
28th,
public
yeah,
hearing.
for the
Okay.
continuance.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 2, Site and Architectural Review 2023-3. Do we have a staff report?
We do, thank you. This will be Senior Planner Magda Gonzalez as well.
Item number 2 is site and architectural review on 2023 for airway storage. The applicant is K2 Solutions, represented by Carson Clower. The project is located at 1960-1970 airway. It consists of 2 parcels, totaling 3.9 acres. It is zoned industrial business park, and it is within the airport influence area. It was taken to the Airport Land Use Commission June 15th, where they deemed the proposal consistent with the 2012 Hollister Municipal Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. To the west and the east of the parcel is vacant industrial lots. To the south are correctional facilities and a vacant lot as well. The proposal intends to establish a storage facility, which would be comprised of 33 enclosed storage units within 2 buildings, 136 open large RV parking spaces, both back-in and pull-through, 21 smaller RV parking spaces, 10 parking spaces, including 2 ADA compliant spaces, as well as other improvements, including CMU wall along Airway Drive and chain link fence on the side lots and the rear, which will be disguised by landscaping. It also includes automatic entry gates, pedestrian exit, travel enclosures, trash enclosures, and it will employ 2 employees and 1 per shift. And customers will have access to the site 24/7. And the office will be open for operations Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. One of the conditions of approval will require the applicant to either merge the lots or provide a deed-restriction that will be reviewed by the engineering department to ensure it meets compliance with accessibility to the site. The following are a few elevations showing the proposal. The colors, the paint colors will be tan, and they will have ribbed metal panels. The tallest building would be 14 feet in height, and they have an average length of 167 feet. They are required to comply with, they will be submitting separate permits for their proposed signage, as you can see on here. That will be reviewed by the planning division. The elevation on the bottom shows 8x8 metal roll-up doors. It shows a variation of heights, breaking the bulkiness of what it's typically a storage building. As you can see, some of the sections are 10 feet 2 inches, and then as I previously mentioned, the highest is 14 feet. And that just shows the different sides of the building consisting of the same theme. Lattice, wall-mounted lattice will be installed to enable landscaping to grow on the walls and break the monotony of that building. It also will have a fence and trash enclosure. The trash enclosure has been approved by Recology and meets those standards. There's a picture showing the proposed the fence, but as I previously mentioned, it's going to be disguised by the landscaping that will grow on the sides, both on both sides and the rear of the property. Here's the majority of the landscaping will take place in the frontage of the parcel, because the industrial business park requires those projects to have a minimum of 35 feet frontage landscape, and they are actually exceeding that by providing 41 feet. And those are the shrubs and bushes and trees that they're proposing. They're all drought tolerant. So the project has been analyzed to meet compliance with the general plan and the zoning district that it's in, and it has been found to be compliant with both. They're not requesting any special deviation or concession for what they're doing, and a storage facility is allowed within the industrial business park. Additionally, a notice of determination will be filed pursuant to Section 1507, because potential environmental impacts have been analyzed with the original approval of the Air Park Business Center. Staff, the Planning Commission has 3 options. The first one is to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2023-3, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. Option 2 is to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2023 with findings and conditions of approval modified by you, the Planning Commission. No, option number 3, to deny the proposed project, or option number 4, to continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. Staff's recommendation is for the commission to offer option number 1. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
Thank you for that report. Is there any questions from the commission regarding the presentation?
I just wanted to clarify, in the MND, oops, sorry, it did explain that it does need an environmental impact report. Is that what you were saying that NOD is?
It would just be a notice of determination because they already complied with all the conditions when they initially subdivided that shopping center, that center. So all the conditions that were in that MND have been met. I believe there's only one, which is the Kit Fox, and I believe it's included in the conditions of approval. Everything else has been satisfied.
I did want to say I really do like the landscaping, and I like that there's such a big buffer of the standards, like increasing those spaces. So I appreciate that. And I don't know if I can make this statement, but I do like the idea of one of our public comments to include apprenticeships and hiring local and, you know, including that in developments, keeping our people here.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff regarding only the presentation?
I have a question on the duplication of a condition, so where does that fall? 15 and 20 are identically the same, but they are in different categories. Is that what you intended? One's in standard planning, and the other one's in specific, project specific, but they're identical reading. Oh, shoot. They probably didn't hear me, huh? No, we heard you. Well, everybody in here did. I was questioning the duplicity of condition 15 and 20.
That was a mistake. Yeah, one
Okay.
of them could be deleted. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, we will open the public hearing at 6:25. Do we have any speakers?
I have one speaker card, Carson Clower.
I'll be real brief. Just want to say thank you guys for your time and attention in reviewing this. Your agenda packet was insane, so I appreciate that you caught that. That shows that you're really reading it. Also would like to say thank you to Magda for all her hard work on this. We've been kind of going back and forth for probably 6 or 8 months now, so really appreciate all that. We do have the project engineer here, Alan, as well, so if there's any technical questions, he can help with those, and then I'm available if anything else comes up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question from him for him.
Oh, for
Yeah.
Carson? Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I have maybe a little request. I'll just say it now. And maybe those windows are dark and it won't matter, but I wondered if you might consider awnings on the west windows. Because you're still going to see those from the street, I believe, as you're heading east. And then the west's pretty sunny, so it's just something I'm throwing out there. You might want to consider it. And it would give a little more decorative to the wall. But I don't know which windows you have. Maybe it's not an issue.
There's no windows.
No windows?
There's windows on the north side, one small window at the entry door.
This is a west elevation. Aren't those windows?
Or they're just metal.
Let me see.
Are they something? Maybe I just don't understand it.
There was two on one.
There's
They're
two windows.
Metal roll-up doors.
No, west elevation. Keep going there.
Those face the other building across the entrance, so there's no real
Okay.
public. It's
They don't
just
see it?
they're looking out so they can see who's from the office,
Okay.
who's coming to the gate.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, so no windows that front airway drive or
Okay.
the public right of way.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have an awning over the front door.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, for me. I
Yes, go
noticed that you were gonna be doing a review of your signage on the building. I didn't see anywhere on the plans signage on the ground in the front sidewalk area. Do you have anything?
No, I think we're looking at the signage completely separate from this application.
Okay.
There's a good chance that this is gonna be leased out, so we really wouldn't wanna have the signage come up now and then have
Okay.
a different company come along.
And if you could flip to the view, that would be the north elevation, or the address is. It's not freestanding signage that we're proposing. It would be directly mounted to the
Wall
building.
sign.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, does that not just go through Development Services Director now?
That's correct.
Okay. So we aren't gonna see it, but I trust her.
Do we have any other speakers?
Chairperson Henderson, I have no other speakers on this item.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing at 6:28. Any further discussion from the commission?
I'll just add this. I'm glad to see it. We have a lot of RVs here, and if you ever tried to get a slot, it's 200 and something a month. I think that's terrible. So I'm hoping this is gonna bring a little relief on some people have more choices to park their rigs, and if they can get affordable, then they aren't inclined to put them in their driveway. They're big, they're bulky, and not everybody wants them in a driveway, so this makes a nice opportunity for folks to have an option. Maybe it bring down the prices on the older ones. So I'm glad to see this, because there's none. Maybe since we did the, like, you could park them in the driveway, it's better, but 3 months back, it wasn't good, so. I want to thank the applicant for bringing that, and I also want to say, I want to thank Carson very much for your patience, because I know you've been waiting for a long time. It was no fault of our own, really, but you were very kind to not be saying anything, and I noticed that, so appreciate your patience. That's all, Chairman.
Thank you. As a RV owner myself, I do appreciate the more storage available in the community. Any other comments? What was the pleasure of the commission?
Want a motion? Do we have resolution number?
We do, Chairperson Lenore. The next resolution number will be 2023-19.
I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-19. It's a resolution of the PC of the City of Hollister approving SNA Review 2023-3 to construct a storage facility with office off of Airway Drive. As presented in the staff report, as the findings and conditions as presented in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 3, Site and Architectural Review 2021-11. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This item will be presented by Senior Planner Erica Fraser.
Thank you. 3 applications for the project located at 1550 San Juan. There's a site and architectural review. There's a mitigated negative declaration and a density bonus. The project site on this map is shown in black. Again, it's at 1550 San Juan. The area surrounding is a mixture of commercial, vacant, and residential uses. There's single family to the north, and then directly above the property, where you can see kind of no property lines, that is currently under review by the city for another mixed-use multifamily development. To the right of the property, there is a gas station that currently exists. And then to the left, 1619, that area is there's currently vehicle storage and some other minor commercial uses at that property. The diagram you see before you is the site plan. Due to the frontage on San Juan Road, there's only one building located at the street. So that's the commercial building, which has commercial on the ground floor, and then we'll have residential units on top. There's an internal circulation system, roadways to get to all of the buildings. There is a community building within the site. It's located at Building 2 that will provide some amenities for the residents as well as some outdoor areas. The property is located within the West Gateway Beautification Plan, and the West Gateway Beautification Plan has specific requirements for the improvements at the street. One of the requirements with the West Gateway Beautification Plan is the entrance into 1550 San Juan needs to line up with the driveway across the street. The property owner did attempt to work with the gas station owner so that the driveway would be combined with the gas station, but ultimately was unable to come to an agreement with that property owner. So his solution to the problem was to enter into an agreement, if the project is approved, with the property owner across the street to have that driveway moved so then it lines up. The reason they need to line up is obviously the West Gateway Beautification Plan, but it's really for safety because we need the two to align. So in order to ensure that that does happen, there is a mitigation measure within the negative declaration that requires those two to line up. And there's also a condition of approval. The agreement would have to be in place before a building permit is issued. Along with this, they will have to make frontage improvements to again ensure safety in the area with regards to circulation. So he will be required to close off the road, his driveway access so that people can't come onto the gas station. And he needs to close off the entrance, the second entrance at the gas station because it doesn't meet the West Gateway Beautification Plan. He is trying to work out an agreement with the gas station owner still to see if the gas station owner would like to access through his property. So he is working on that. In the event that he's unable to come to an agreement, all the work will be done in the city's right of way to meet the West Gateway Beautification Plan. The multifamily development is broken up into 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. They will be distributed throughout the site, and they will have a varying size with the 1 bedroom being 542 square feet and the 3 bedroom being a little over 1,000 square feet. They do have private open space, which exceeds the requirements of our zoning ordinance. This is the one building that you're really going to see the way that the property is oriented, plus the gas station, plus the other building, Building 2, which is a lower building. This is what you're going to see from San Juan Road. So this is the commercial building with the residential units on top. They've provided for some outdoor dining space, and then again, the improvements at San Juan Road, the requirements for landscaping. So this is the design that you'll see throughout the development. They have provided a variety of materials. So we have different sidings throughout. We have different roof materials. So if it's a roof above the first floor, it has one type of material. Obviously the second floor then would have the second. They have shutters. They have other sort of architectural details within the building. Again, as this is really the one you're going to see, this is what we need to scrutinize the most. And with the elements, with the varying roof heights, with the roof above the first floor, even though it's a small building, you can see they've really articulated the building well, and they've broken up the massing of this building. This is a rendering just of the interior of the site. Although you can't see it, it's still important to have an attractively designed building. For the elevation, this is what you would see from within the site. Again, we have architectural details. The massing is broken up by the forms. We have varying roof heights. We've continued those materials that we have on that front building throughout the site, so it doesn't lessen the details that you would see from within the site. As far as landscaping goes, again, at San Juan, they have to meet the West Gateway Beautification Plan, but then from within the site, there is trees that surround the entire development to provide shade in the parking lot. There is landscaping between each building with pedestrian paths and some passive space. There's also a small tot lot, playground within the development, and then they have various kind of outdoor eating spaces, some places to hang out if you wanted to, as well as benches throughout. They again they exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance for landscaping. As far as parking goes, they have applied for density bonus, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But the density bonus law allows the applicant to have a lower parking requirement. in this case, under the density bonus, they would only be required to provide 243 parking spaces. Now, they are exceeding that. They're going to provide 291. That's closer, that's at the zoning ordinance. Without the density bonus, that commercial space gets a little bit more, I don't want to use the word iffy, but iffy because they're parking it at 15, which is really retail uses, whereas our restaurant requirement is quite high. With the density bonus, they will have enough parking. If the density bonus isn't approved, the use of that commercial space gets limited to retail instead of a restaurant type use. But again, they meet the zoning ordinance for residential parking, which is very good. So for the density bonus law and our zoning ordinance allows an applicant to apply for a density bonus if they provide a certain number of affordable units. And the percentage that they're required to provide is based on the income category that they're selecting. So this is multifamily, it's for rent. So you couldn't select from the moderate category, that's for sale only. But they can select between the very low and the low. And for very low, in order to meet the requirements of state law, it's 5% of the site. So there was some change. Originally, they were going to do 10% of the low. They elected to go to very low. And very low is less than 50%. So the household would earn less than 50% of the area median income. So that's a category for that. And once they provide those 8 units, which is 5%, they qualify for the density bonus, and you get a variety of things that you can ask for. Usually what we see is development standards and asking for waiver of development standards, like setbacks and in height and other things. In this case, the applicant is not requesting any of those waivers. They are eligible for the parking. What they are requesting approval of is a waiver of sewer and storm drainage fees to offset the cost of those units. And so the sewer impact fee for multifamily is $4,464.68 for treatment and $3,590 for collection. And the storm drainage fee is $700 for studio and 1-bedroom units and $2,030 for units with 2 or more bedrooms. And that's the current fee. Obviously, the fee doesn't get paid until you're further along the process with building permits, so it could change. They're requesting a fee waiver of those fees, and so the total fee waiver would be $70,045.44 to $80,685.14, depending on the bedroom breakdown. Because this is a request of a fee waiver, the Planning Commission would just be making a recommendation on it. It's ultimately the council's decision on whether or not they want to approve the fee request. As the project is on a property, although surrounded by uses, it is 5.54 acres, so they didn't qualify for an infill exemption. So under the requirements of CEQA, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. The mitigation measures included within the MND are related to biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, geology, and site access. So there is a mitigation measure which talks about the driveway. There's also a mitigation measure which requires the applicant for 1550 San Juan to allow for future access onto the project to the left, which is currently the storage, the vehicle storage and commercial properties. So in the future, if that's developed with residential, there will need to be two accesses. So the mitigation measure requires that if that project ever comes in, that they'll allow for access onto their site for a secondary safe exiting for fire. The MND was prepared and then circulated for a 30-day public review. 1 comment was received and a response to comments was prepared. The comment was from the San Benito High School District. The proposed project is attractively designed. It's a very interesting architectural style. It includes a lot of detail, articulation, and other enhancements for the site. It will provide additional multifamily rental units for the city, which will meet meet the needs of the residents and the commercial space, which will provide, in addition to the area for commercial uses for the surrounding area and allow it to be more walkable. The impacts related to the project have been mitigated to a less than significant level, and the project is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan and the requirements of the zoning ordinance. You have several options tonight. The first one is to adopt 3 resolutions approving the site and architectural review and the mitigated negative declaration and make the recommendation to the city council. You could elect to adopt the resolutions but make modifications or changes to the conditions of approval. You could deny the project, or you can continue the hearing if you chose to do so. Staff is recommending that you select option 1. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
So regarding the fee waiver, where is that addressed in the accommodations, in the recommendation?
So the fee waiver is attachment 3, the resolution recommending city council approval of a density bonus. The density bonus is really just the fee waiver.
Or that's regarding the sewage?
Yes.
Okay. And the recommendation is to
Christina,
accept that?
on page 9 of 12 on the staff report, 4th paragraph down, it's gonna talk about it there. But we only recommend to the council, it's not in our purview, thank goodness.
So maybe if I clarify, I should have said this before. As part of a density bonus, you get certain things. You get parking, you get a waiver of development standards, and you get a certain number of incentives or concessions depending on how many affordable units you provide within it. They are allowed to select, based on only 5%, they're allowed to select 1 incentive or concession. Their selection is the fee waiver. So that's part of their density bonus. It all gets wrapped up into 1. People can select whatever they want and then propose it to us. With a fee waiver, it obviously requires a payment of funds, so that's why it requires city council, whereas the planning commission would ordinarily, for most density bonuses, review it themselves, or act on it yourself.
Could you go over the gas station, the driveway issue about sharing?
Oops.
It wasn't clear.
Okay, yes, a very long process. So when the gas station was approved, the gas station was a convenience store. It was approved with the layout that is there today. And although it didn't meet the West Gateway beautification plan, there was no conditions imposed on them at that time that would require them to allow 1550 to access their property, because it's supposed to be a shared driveway. So where you see, so this is the driveway coming in, and where you see this, yeah, so where you see this line right here, it was supposed to come further onto their property, and that would provide both an access to the gas station and then as well to 1550 San Juan. The city can't compel the gas station owner to now allow it, because there was no condition of approval in place, and there's no deed restriction or access agreement or anything in place. The applicant really did try to work with the gas station owner, and he had concerns with unfueling of trucks in that area and safety concerns, and so they weren't able to come up with an agreement. So because of that, the applicant had to redesign so that the driveway is completely on his property. And then in order to do that, for safety concerns, this one across the street, which is existing, is going to have to be moved to line up.
Okay, and you said that there's already an agreement in place for that to happen.
He's working on it, but he is technically not the property owner yet. He's just the applicant. So in order to get this project moved along so he could feel more comfortable with entering into this agreement and paying for it, we have moved the project forward. he can't move forward without that driveway getting moved. There's a mitigation measure that requires it, and there's a condition of approval that requires that he show us the agreement prior to an issuance of a building permit. So it will have to be installed for this project to move forward, or I guess realigned.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I did talk to them today regarding pro rata for future stoplights, and they assure me that the West Gateway planning area has a verbiage in there that every developer that develops along there now in that special gateway puts their fair share towards future signalization, if there's any, because I've been in this business a long time, and you put the subdivisions in, and now there's a big bunch of traffic, and the developer's done. So we learned to catch that, and everybody pay their fair share, and they assured me that would be the case.
And that's covered with impact fees, or
What's that?
with,
I think they pay extra for going, or is it part of the traffic impact fees? No, it's separate when it's pro rata.
Right, our assistant engineer, Dylan, is here and can answer some, if you have
Okay.
the more specific engineering questions regarding West Gateway.
Okay.
Hi. So I believe your question was regarding future signalization.
Yes.
Okay, so for 1550 San Juan Hollister Road, there wasn't any type of a triggering for additional signalization.
Not now.
Not now, correct?
Yeah.
And then so basically the fair share contribution would be towards that roundabout at the intersection of
Oh.
San Juan Hollister Road and Graft Road.
Oh. Okay, well, they are close enough to Graph. I'm a little more concerned down the way to Rakovich, which I'll comment on later, so.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, they're pretty safe there at Graph as far as queuing, so it shouldn't be an issue right there. All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We will open the public hearing at 6:49. Any speakers?
Yes, sorry, just taking notes here. The first speaker will be Barry Katz, or Katz.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Just generally, I want to say that I really support projects of this type. I'm not that familiar with this particular one, but all around Hollister, all I see being built are single-family homes to the tune of $1 million homes, and it's not going to. And I hear people talking about the need for housing for police and fire and teachers and, you know, modest income people that we need here in the community and that thing. So I think a project of this nature will be much more helpful. Glad to see the affordable units as well. But mostly what I want to talk about is electric vehicle readiness. And I have a feeling if I hadn't come, there would have not been one word of talk about this in this project, for or against. So this particular project is 157 units with 291 parking spaces. Now picture that in 20 years, 80% of the vehicles parked there overnight for all those tenants or homeowners, I don't know which this is, 80% of those vehicles will be electric. Every one of them is going to need to be charging overnight, and depending on how much people drive, either every night or every other night. But these people are going to need to charge these vehicles. This should be, I think it should be a subject of every plan. Across the street, I know on the next item on your agenda, you're talking about 50 single-family homes, each with a private garage, and I'm pretty sure the code requires that those garages be wired for electric vehicle chargers. Well, people who rent or park in a parking lot, it's great that you have adequate parking for all the tenants, but they all have the very same need. They will have the exact same need as those people in those 50 units across the street who will each be able to have a charger in their garage. Obviously, there's no garages here. The chargers will be out on the parking. But if you're gonna have 157 units, there should be at least 157 chargers. And there's different ways that they could be metered to the units, or they could be separately monitored and by companies that do that kind of thing. There's different ways they could go, but the main thing that I see is that you should have at least 157 chargers. I know they calculate more than 2 cars for the larger units. I don't want to go on and on, but that's basically it. It's far more economical, at least to get the wiring in the ground. Wiring goes in first. Wiring and underground plumbing all goes in before the pavement is laid, before the curbs are built. That always goes in first because that's the economical way to do it. Is that all I get?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Victor Gomez.
Chairman Henderson, members of the commission, good to see you this evening. Victor Gomez with Pinnacle Strategy here on behalf of the Aga family, the applicants of this project. It's been a few years since we started working on this, and we're happy to be here before you finally on this project. Huge thanks to staff, Erica and their work. As you guys are all aware, we have a dire need for rental stock here in Hollister. So this project's gonna hopefully provide a little bit of relief. Rents continue to go up, but because of the lack of rentals available in Hollister, it continues to be a problem. But we're happy to be here. I grew up on the west side of Hollister. I grew up 2 blocks away from this site on Buena Vista and Gonzalez. And I wish we had some of this investment back in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up on that side of town. We had a Quick Stop and Hollister Super. That was pretty much it. So we're excited to bring this project forward. Excited to bring at least an affordable component, even though it's not required. The fee waiving will be extremely beneficial to us as we try to, backfill for some of these rents that we're going to lose because of the affordability requirement in there. But we're happy to do that. So again, excited to bring this project forward. The project applicant is here. Architect is here as well. So we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. I do have a question. Could you just respond to the comments about the electric vehicles? Do you have any response to that, or?
I will say in other communities where we've worked, the only thing I'll say is that they've been extremely expensive, even when we're installing a few of them. But I'll leave that to our architect that's here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
One more question. The last speaker mentioned no garages. I thought I saw garages. Am I?
That's the other one.
Well, that's the other one. Okay.
Yeah, and any additional questions on the architectural and design, I'll leave that
thank you.
to staff. Yeah. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mr. Rene Baez.
Good evening, Rene Baez, Carpenter's Local 405 and resident of Hollister as well. We definitely need housing, affordable housing, rental units. I just want to make sure that we're also including a local workforce because as many of us, we have over approximately 400 plus members who live in San Benito County who travel to the Bay Area when they would love to work on these projects instead of having those coming from out of town in town, right? And then same with out-of-town developers and contractors, right? They come in here and they take our money and then they leave with it, right? So I just want to make sure that we're also considering a local workforce that who has the ability to work on these projects and also live in these projects so that they can become more prevalent in their communities and spend more time with their families as opposed to driving to the Bay Area and then having to come back at 7 o'clock at night and having a bad quality of life when we could be working on things like this. We definitely need housing, so I'd be more than happy to meet with the applicant to see how we can come to an agreement to help you guys build. I just want to make those comments on record. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Since he's now saying it outside of the public comment. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. But
Yeah.
what's the tool we use to make that happen?
As opposed to, what do you mean?
Wait,
It's
hold
not
on
a-
one sec.
what?
What do you mean we're outside public comment?
No, we're outside of the first public comment in the general public
Yeah.
comment.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
He brought it up, so I couldn't ask any questions.
Okay,
but now
got it.
he's in a.
Okay, got
I'm
it.
sorry to make myself clear. It's not a government prevailing wage job.
Commissioner
so
Lenore, I do think this is
we
out.
can't.
Well, I do think it's off topic.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's not really within the scope of the
Well,
project
I'm just
itself.
saying I agree with him, but I don't know how you do that.
I mean, you
Thank
could direct staff to bring it back to a future meeting, although I do also think it's a little bit outside the purview of the planning commission, but,
You're right.
but they could,
Yeah.
we could present on
Okay.
why that is.
Sure.
At a future meeting if it were agendized.
Okay.
I definitely believe the same way that the planning commission can direct the staff or the applicant to change the shading or add a window or a covering is kind of the same thing that we could kind of recommend some labor requirements, that's all, right? Well, you guys can do that?
Would you like me to respond to that?
Recommendations?
I'm not aware of a way for the city to compel a private developer to pay prevailing wage or hire local.
Okay.
So on city projects, that is certainly mechanisms to do that,
Right,
but I'm
definitely,
not
definitely.
familiar with a way for them to compel a private developer to do
Okay,
that.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Randy Russum.
Good evening, Chair Henderson, Planning Commission. My name's Randy Russum with RM Design Group. I'm out of San Luis Obispo. I'm the architect on this project and your project representative. Beyond my comments, I'll be here to answer any questions you may have. Given the 3-minute timer, I'm going to just hit on a few high points here. First off, this is my first time in this chamber. It's an honor to be here and present in the city. I feel like we've taken great pride to bring forward a project that respects the city, its goals, and ultimately the end users. This is not low-income housing, cheap housing. This is a quality product we're bringing forward. It has met with many challenges along the way. This has been a long process, years out there getting to this point, with a variety of designs. As you've heard, there's been a number of revisions on the entry in that front building, and I suspect that entry drive will continue to see some revisions as we move forward with agreements with property owners across the street, or potentially a fuller realization of the project from the gas station owner, to where we can design something that also benefits him. He sees it as an impact right now. So, but that set aside, it does not really reflect on the project as a whole. I think we put a real nice project forward to the street. This, I believe, will be the first West Gateway beautification project to start seeing that plan implemented. But beyond that area, if you pay attention, I'm sure you have, you bring into the site, we have a lot of amenities, more common open space, more private open space. We have green space between buildings. Yes, there is parking in garages. I think it's 16 garages per building. Plus there's the additional outside parking. Make sure I pick up on all these little items here. Affordable housing, we talked about that briefly. We're coming, by state law, we're meeting the requirements for affordable housing at 5, very low. So the idea of the parking reduction is essentially by right, by providing that. We also by right have one incentive. An ask for a fee reduction is not a standard one within the state law, so it is coming forward as a kind of an option for you guys to weigh in on and obviously be decided ultimately by the Planning Commission. The other comments I've heard had to do with chargers. California Green Code requires us to put in a certain amount of electrical charging stations and provide additionally for basically EV-ready spots where conduits brought to those locations, but the infrastructure beyond that isn't in place. So planning for the future. It certainly doesn't provide for 157 spots worth. That is, probably the power in the street could not take care of 157 spots. But I'm here for any questions you have.
Any questions for the design architect? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell you wrong. There's 16 units that have garages.
16 garages per building, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings worth of those.
Enclosed garage.
Enclosed door goes down.
How many per unit then? One bedroom house?
It is not a per unit application. Those are separate things. If you want a garage, that's going to be an add-on, I'm sure, when they're renting them to, renting the units that, or you want to rent with a garage, that costs more than one without a garage.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's good to know. So there's some.
I'm not the guy who's going to be renting them, but in the past, that's how those have operated.
Preferably, these are all rental. You mentioned something about sale, but they're all rentals, right?
The way the density bonus law works is that you get certain concessions and certain things based on your affordability level. So there's very low, low, moderate, which is only for sale. And then there are things for like 100% affordable, senior housing. There's other things that come into play. But moderate,
Moderate is only for sale.
only for sale.
No density bonus on the.
If you provided moderate, it is out of the kindness of your heart within a multifamily development.
This is an all-for-rent project.
Thank you for clarifying the garages.
Absolutely. I'm here if other things come up along the way. Thank you.
I had a question. So you said you had 16 garages per building. All 16 of those garages will be wired for electrical charging, car charging?
I'm trying to think if that's we don't have that at this stage. We do not have that planned out. I'm trying to recall if those are required by code right now. In a single-family residence, we'd have to pre-wire for that. I don't know the details of a multifamily project, whether in garages, whether we'd have to do that or not. Just like I said, on the EV spaces outside, code's going to have us do it. You don't even have to weigh in on that particular subject. But I can't. I'm sorry. I wish I could speak better to the garages in multifamily. Typically, that would be a pre-wired for someone to install that.
So you're saying is there gonna be any on site?
Yes, there will be on-site not in the garages. I can definitively say on-site, not in the garages. There will be EV stations, EV parking, EV chargers, as well as additional spots that are pre-wired, which means the conduit's brought to them, the space is set, so as the demand builds, those can be brought into the project.
And on the EV wiring, are you gonna have them in one general location or dispersed?
Typically, those are dispersed throughout the project and are required to go into a accessible spot also.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairperson Henderson, I have no more speaker cards on this item, and I see no hands raised in the virtual audience.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing at 7:04. Any further discussion from the Planning Commission?
I love it. I love it. We need rentals, went over 20 years without building any. I love it. We went 20 years. I'm not used to microphones because I know you can all hear me. But for the Zoom folks, I think this is a beautiful addition to the West Gateway. I'm very, very excited about it. Glad to see the affordable units when he didn't have to do those because we don't have the inclusionary housing ordinance adopted yet, because that's the first thing I was zeroed in on. But I said to myself, it's better to get 8 than none, and he did not have to do those. So I give kudos to the developer for providing those affordable units and the overall development, because I'm really surprised that we're getting this and these rentals. So I'm very excited, and I think they did a nice job. So it looks good, and that's all I gotta say is I think that's a nice addition to the West Gateway.
Thank you.
And I hope they do something with the property to the west. Soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, I'll just say, in reviewing the general plan, one of the things that was brought up quite a bit was that there's about 80% single-family homes in our community, which is high compared to other communities. So we definitely need more rentals. So I'm happy to see a rental project coming in, and that's a very nice one. Okay, if there are, unless there's any other comments, what is the pleasure of the commission? If we're gonna make motions, we probably need to make one at a time.
Which one first, are we gonna do the, recommending the, density bonus waiver of fees or the, site architecture? Estimate first and then the waiting?
Through the chair, if we could make a recommendation on the mitigated negative declaration first, so the CEQA document first, then the site and architectural, and then a recommendation on the density bonus for the council in that order would be great.
Would you like me to start, Joe?
Yeah, I think that would be good unless,
So I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-20, adopting the mitigated neg deck and the reporting program for mixed-use development at 1550 San Juan Road per the resolution.
okay, any questions on the motion? Is it clear? Okay. We have a motion, is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we need a motion for conditions of, let's see.
For the estimate.
Okay, yep.
Do you want me to go ahead? I don't
Well,
want to hog them all.
no, I think,
Okay.
anyone else want to try?
Hey, anybody else, take it. It's, not a problem. I move that we approve, that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-21 of the Planning Commission approving SNA 2021-11 for mixed use with 157 dwelling units and 8 affordable, located at 1550 San Juan Road. And with the findings and conditions as stated in the staff report and resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I guess you're on a roll.
I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-22, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Hollister recommending to the City Council approval of a density bonus to waive required sewer and storm drain impact fees for the 8 affordable residential dwelling units. For the resolution, with the findings and the resolution as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 4, Site and Architectural Review 2022-9 and Conditional Use Permit 2022-3.
Thank you, Chairperson Henderson. This next item will be presented by Senior Planner Magda Gonzalez.
Good evening, Commissioners. This Site and Architectural Review 2029-9 and Conditional Use Permit 2022-3 propose a housing, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, can we have conversations outside the chambers, please?
Order.
I'll close the doors, Chairperson.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
The applicant is San Juan Hollister Multifamily LLC. The project the project is located on the southwest corner of 4th Street and Rakovic Way. To the east is a mobile home park. To the west is a mobile home park. To the south are residential units. To the east, across Rakovic Way, is a vacant lot, which may be phase 2 of this proposal in the future. across Fourth Street is commercial development. The parcel is located within the West Gateway mixed use zoning, and it is 2.5 acres. The project proposes to construct 50 three-story, three-bedroom units with 2.5 to 3 bathrooms. They will each have a 2-car garage, porch, and deck space. 5 of those units will, the ones located along San Juan 4th Street, are to be live-work units with either retail or office space on the ground level. It will also include trash enclosures, landscaping, and amenities such as a clubhouse, pool, barbecue area, and open spaces for common use. It also includes 119 parking spaces, including 1 ADA and 1 electric vehicle charging space, 13 bicycle spaces, and roof-mounted solar panels. The first building, I only include elevations for the first building because all residential buildings will be designed in the same manner, the same materials across all 4 walls. So, and they include, the maximum height for the residential buildings will be 39 feet 7 inches. They will include composition shingles, roofing, roll-up garage doors, stucco, dormers, and brick veneers. And I'm just going to go through the slides because it's pretty much the same architectural elements across both 4 walls. This is the south elevation, the north. And this is what the live-work building will look like. It has a maximum height of 44 feet. It will have signage and a commercial element on the ground floor. They also include balconies. And they will have storefront glazing, pendant signings, metal canopies, and vintage glass doors. Those units will also be required to provide a business license indicating that there are an active business within the city of Hollister and not just, like, for example, a home office. They have to be a legitimate with the state of California and the city of Hollister. This is elevation for the recreation building. The maximum height of this building is 18 feet 2 inches. It will have decorative gable levers, vinyl windows, wood awnings, and brick veneers. There will be lighting throughout the entire parcel and landscaping. They will comply with the West Gateway beautification plan. They will incorporate evergreen and deciduous trees along both street frontages, as you can see by this drawing. And the landscaping will be drought tolerant. The project was analyzed for compliance with the general plan and the zoning district of the West Gateway mixed use. And it has been determined to be compliant with both. It meets the density requirements, the landscaping. It's not asking for any special concessions or considerations. Regarding CEQA, it has been deemed to be exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15332 for infill development. We did require a traffic analysis to determine its potential impacts to traffic, and it was determined that it wouldn't have any environmental impacts when it relates to traffic. It also meets the criteria set forth by section 15332 because it is consistent with the general plan and the zoning. It is less than 5 acres. The site has no value to any special habitat or endangered or rare species. And it will not result in any significant impacts to the environment, traffic, air, or water quality. The Planning Commission has 3 options. The first one would be to adopt a resolution approving Site and Architectural Review 2022-9 and resolution approving Conditional Use Permit 2022-3, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. Option 2, to adopt a resolution approving Site and Architectural Review 2022-9, a resolution approving conditional use permit 2022-3 with findings and conditions of approval modified by the Planning Commission. Option 3 is to deny the proposed project, and option 4 is to continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information. For clarification, staff recommends that Planning Commission opt for option 1. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff from the commission? Okay, if there are no questions, we will open the public hearing at 7:17.
Thank you, Chairperson. The first speaker I have is Victor Gomez.
Honorable Chair Henderson, members of the commission, Victor Gomez here once again. Super excited to bring this project forward to you folks. God willing, fingers crossed, we have a couple of more in the queue to bring to the city of Hollister, one included right across the street. Obviously, this work-live arrangement is a little bit different for the city of Hollister. Really exciting to see something a little bit different. Hopefully, keep a few more folks off of our local streets and roads by keeping them working here locally. I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit and just say, in at least initial conversations regarding traffic, and I'm looking at you, Carol, because I know we're gonna talk a little bit about traffic likely. We are hoping and likely going to be required to line up our exit driveway on Rakovich 2 across the street to Felice Drive, and I'm anticipating we'll probably have to provide some type of traffic calming or mitigation at that point. We'll see when we get there, but just wanted to get ahead of your concerns there because I'm sure you're going to share some thoughts there. But Senior Vice President of Development with Republic Urban Properties, Melissa Durkin, is here with us today, so I think she submitted a speaker card, and she could certainly answer any technical questions that you folks may have. And we also have members of our team available on Zoom as well. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Oh, I have a question. If you can answer. Can you comment on the reduction of the work-live units from 15 to 5?
I'll let Melissa jump in on that a little bit, but we did have some challenges around parking. Our parking requirements really did hold us back from building more of those units. Our initial application did have several more. Some of you that I met with a year ago or so probably saw that. Unfortunately, we had to scale those back because of the parking requirements, unfortunately. So that was really the reasoning, Commissioner Henderson.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The next speaker is Mr. Rene Baez. Okay, and the next speaker card I have is Melissa Durkin, the applicant team as well. You have a presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Give me 1 second to pull that up. No, I'm in the wrong folder. Sorry. Technical things.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. And there is a thing to move the slide.
Got it. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Henderson and members of the commission. My name is Melissa Durkin. I'm Senior Vice President of Development. With Republic Urban Properties, we are pleased to be here tonight presenting our 50-unit mixed-use development. We would first like to thank staff for all of their hard work on this project. Republic Urban Properties is a San Jose-based real estate development company. We specialize in multifamily residential, but also have office, hotels, and retail in our portfolio. But more recently, we have started a build-for-rent program. We have 472 build-for-rent units in our pipeline, including this project. We think this will be a great product type for the city of Hollister and are excited for the opportunity to develop in your city. The development proposal includes 50 build-for-rent units. This is basically a single-family townhome, but it's a rental product. It's great alternative to home ownership. It requires no down payment, so it's a more affordable option. It's designed for everyone, families, couples, empty nesters. We offer large 3-bedroom floor plans. Some even have dens. They all have 2-car garages and private decks and patios. There's no maintenance. It's pet friendly and lots of on-site amenities like a pool with clubhouse, barbecues, and a dog run. The 5 live-work units satisfy our commercial requirement, which is essentially ground floor retail and office space at your home. It's convenient, no driving to work. It's more affordable than leasing traditional office space. And this also helps to activate the 4th Street frontage. Project benefits includes consistency with goals and policies of the general plan and West Gateway zoning designation. It is an infill site and it's compatible with the surrounding land uses. We have provided attractive and high quality architecture. It's creating more housing opportunities for city employees. We're providing new public sidewalks and on-street parking. And finally, it's a pedestrian-friendly urban streetscape with enhanced ground floor commercial space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairperson Henderson, I have no more speaker cards and no hands raised in the audience.
Okay. We will close the public hearing at 7:23. What are the thoughts from the commission?
I had a question on the 5 live-work units. So basically when the resident rents the unit, they rent the workspace as well, so that it's a combo basically, so.
Yes, it comes with the unit, so the ground floor has, I think it's about 200 square feet for either its office or retail, and then the second floor would be kind of their living space, kitchen, dining room, living room, and then the upstairs are the 3 bedrooms. I think rents are probably about $500 or so more for that unit. So like I said, it's really kind of more affordable option rather than leasing your traditional office space.
Could you give examples of other properties you've done with this concept? Like what types of businesses do they serve?
This is our first live-work unit product that we've done. We have consulted with a artist actually that we do a lot of work with in San Jose. She lives at a live-work project in downtown San Jose and absolutely loves it. We were able to take a tour. Her ground floor has all of her gallery and art space and then her living space above, and she said everyone else in the live-work unit is also just very excited about it, and it's really a way for her to showcase her art, and it's, like I said, it's a more affordable option for her.
Thank you.
I've seen a property in Milpitas, and they kind of have the same concept, and I've seen a lot of hair salons, barber shops, and things like that at the ground floor. So I don't know if it's the same concept, but it looked like it was the ground floor where, you know, of a townhome, basically. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I think that would definitely work here.
Thank you.
I really like this. So Santa Cruz, they have it, the Tannery Arts. So I think it's a great thing to bring here, and having people be able to just commute downstairs is much nicer than 2 hours each way. So I think I'd love to see more of these. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm excited for this. First time I've been on this stuff for a long time, so I'm part of something new, and I'm excited to see how these work, and we fulfill the commercial requirement for the mixed use, and again, more rentals, and I'd like to live at this one. It's got a swimming pool. But you know, some of those folks that are looking to bump up, and maybe they can't afford a house, they get a new apartment. So it's, again, more opportunity for folks that, not everybody wants to be a homeowner, so they'll get a little bit of extra nice rentals. So I like the look. Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy. That's all.
Thank you. So what is the pleasure of the commission?
What's the next number?
Commissioner Lenore, the next resolution number we have is 2023-23.
23. So I move that we adopt PC resolution number 2023-23. It's a resolution of the Planning Commission approving SNA 2022-9 to construct 53-story, 3-bedroom units, and private 2-car garages on the West Gateway zoning district, with the findings and conditions as stated in the resolution and the staff report.
I second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. So we need one more motion. So we're on 2023-24?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Move that we adopt PC resolution 2023-24. It is a resolution of the PC of the City of Hollister approving CUP 2022-3. We're gonna establish 5 live-work units within a 50-use multifamily residential development in the West Gateway zoning district with the findings and conditions as presented in the staff report and resolution.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to item number 5, Site and Architectural Review 2022-12.
Thank you, Chairperson Henderson. This item will also be presented by Magda Gonzalez.
The Site and Architectural Review 2022-12. The applicant is the Marsh Corporation. The proposal is a Wendy's located within the Hollister Farms North. The project site is located within the General Commercial Zoning District. To the east is a proposed Panera Bread. To the west is a proposed retail shop. And to the north is a Quack car wash. And to the south is a commercial development. The parcel is 2 acres. The Wendy's would be 2,262 square feet with a drive-through. It will provide 28 parking spaces with 2 ADA compliant spaces, a bike rack. It would employ 8 employees per shift. It proposes to have 3 shifts, and the hours of operation will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It would also include landscaping and trash enclosures. The elevations show the Wendy's brand colors, the vibrant red with different architectural features to enhance the style and the look of the restaurant. The main entrance includes glass doors, signage, and a canopy above the entrance. There will be a trellis with vines on the rear west side, including signage as well, and the drive-through window. To the north, you will see additional trellises with vines and steel columns, and now with pre-finished aluminum siding. To the south, you'll see a canopy, additional signage, windows, And this is a proposed landscaping. The majority of the landscaping will be located on the north and the south of the parcel, with some shade trees along the parking area for the customers. These are the proposed trees and vegetation for this restaurant. The project was analyzed to determine compliance with the general plan and the zoning district, which is general commercial. It was deemed to be compliant with both, because a restaurant with a drive-through is allowed with within the general commercial zoning, as well within the general plan, as well as long as a site and architectural review application is approved. The project was found to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15332, Class 32, because it meets all the criteria that is less than 5 acres. It won't create any environmental impacts. It is compliant with the general with the general plan and the zoning. Staff wants to present the 3 the recommendations for Planning Commission. The first one would be to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2022-12, subject to the findings and condition of approval. Option 2, to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2022-12 with findings and conditions of approval modified by the Planning Commission. Option number 3, to deny the proposed project. Or option number 4, to continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt option number 1. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that presentation. Is there any questions from the commission? Okay, no questions, so we will open the public hearing at 7:33. Any speakers?
Chairperson Henderson, I have no speakers, but I believe the applicant is in the audience and there's no hands raised.
Okay, would the applicant like to speak, or any questions for the applicant? Okay, we will close the public hearing at 7:34. Any further discussion?
Well, bring on the Baconator.
I'm happy to see that that park, what do you call that? It's not an office park, it's a retail center. I'm glad to see that it's filling up. So it's really good to see.
And the fact that there's it's 24 hours, I think that's the first in the town, right?
No, Jack in the Box.
Jack's in the Box. Okay, yeah. Another choice.
Yeah, we had a Wendy's before, you know. It's where the new KFC
Taco Bell,
Taco
right?
Bell is.
Yeah.
That issue is access for people going north, but yeah, I was there for a while. It's nice to have it come back.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution approving SNA 2022-12, subject to the findings and conditions of approval.
What is the draft resolution number?
This will be resolution 2023-25 for the record.
Okay, great. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on.
Thank you for your investment to the city of Hollister.
Thank you.
It's appreciated.
We'll move on to item number 6. Site and Architectural Review 2023-6.
This will be Magda Gonzalez as well.
Javier Martinez is the applicant for Site and Architectural Review 2023-3. It is a Panera Bread restaurant located at 1150 East Park Street. This site, it's a neighboring restaurant to the proposed Wendy that we just heard about. As I previously mentioned, commercial is to the south of this parcel. Highway 25 is to the east, and the Quick Quack Car Wash is to the north. It is located within the general commercial zoning district. The restaurant will be 3,550 square feet with a drive-through and improvements. It will provide 44 parking spaces, 2 of them being ADA compliant, 1 loading space, 3 bike spaces, and it will include 2 entering lanes to the drive-through. One of the lanes will serve for rapid pickup. You know, if you order ahead on those applications, you just go through that lane and pick it up, or when you're gonna order at the other lane will serve those customers ordering at the menu board. It will employ 5 employees per shift, and the hours of operation will be Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The elevations show the colors and branding that Panera Bread is known for. The maximum height of the building will be 14 feet. The main entrance will have clear glass windows with a vestibule. It will also have a second door, and it will include canopy and signage. The north elevation shows the drive-through as well as windows and a break in different colors and signage. On the south elevation, we see additional signage and parapet walls to disguise any mechanical equipment, so it will be out of public view. This elevation, as you can see, it kind of blends in with the signage. The signage will be reviewed by planning once it actually gets to that point, and will request something that stands out a little more and that doesn't blend in so much with that color that they're currently proposing.
What elevation is that?
The west.
That's the west?
Yes.
Okay.
We did request a queuing analysis for the 2 entering lanes in the drive-through. Based on the results, it was determined that they would require a maximum, the drive-through should queue 9 vehicles, and it actually allows for 11 vehicles, so they should be clear and shouldn't have any issues with vehicles queuing to both entering lanes. But as just part of recommendation of approval, we included that their staff should monitor the queuing lanes, and if there is any queuing access, for them to go out there and ensure that the customers are in the right lane to prevent any queuing onto the streetway. This is the proposed landscaping, the different shrubs and trees that they're proposing throughout the site. Most of the trees will be on the north and west side of the parcel. And it will be water efficient landscaping. This project was also analyzed for general compliance, with the general plan and the zoning ordinance, which is general commercial. It is deemed to be complying with both. It is not asking for any special concession. It meets the requirements in height, setbacks, lot coverage, parking. And it is also being deemed to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, subject to section 15332, class 32. Because it meets all the criteria. It is less than 5 acres. It is compliant with the general plan and zoning district, and it wouldn't create any impacts to the environment or traffic. The Planning Commission has 4 options. The first one is to adopt a resolution approving the SNA 2023-6, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. Option 2, to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2023-6 with findings and conditions of approval modified by the Planning Commission. Option number 3, deny the proposed project. Option number 4, continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt option number 1. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. Now's the opportunity to ask questions. I did have one question. I was wondering about the circulation. So it's right next to Wendy's. So is there any line between the 2 properties, or can you drive freely between the 2?
Yeah,
or?
you should be able to drive freely, and that was part of the reason why the queuing analysis was requested, just to ensure that there wouldn't be any traffic overflow onto the street or impact each other.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open the public hearing at 7:41. Any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. Let me just check the virtual audience. I have no hands raised. Chairperson Henderson.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing at 7:42. Any further discussion?
I think it's gonna be a fairly good looking building on that corner. Like the colors with Panera and
Yeah,
the
I like the olive.
restaurant is a good size.
Mhm.
So it's gonna look, I hope it's gonna look good right there, cause it is very up center right there. Yeah, very visible.
Yeah.
Which is good for Panera.
Yeah.
I did want to ask if they could also do some kind of vines on the outside, that similar to what the Wendy's project had, some trellises. The landscaping is really nice, but adding some to the building itself would also make it really attractive.
Across all four walls, or is there a particular side? I just want to make sure I.
Well, that west side's
Sure.
really blank.
There is especially the side that has the Panera sign that blends in.
The west.
Yeah, the west, thank you. I think on those beige walls, it would be nice to have that.
So we could just recommend that and what, I mean, I'm for that, but
You can place a condition of approval,
is there some kind of okay.
if that's the will of the planning commission. It's just
Okay.
revised landscape plan to include, additional, vertical landscaping, vines or whatever on whatever elevation that you are. I believe that's the west elevation.
That's the west. Christina, just the west or other ones?
Can we look at the other, each of the elevations, because it can break it up?
Those
Probably
are
not
windows.
that
The blue
front
is
one
window.
though. Well,
So no, go just maybe where the wall was. That's
Maybe on the
window,
south.
window, no. Well, yeah,
on those beige
Yeah, on the
walls.
south.
and then the
Or-
other one. Yeah, you're right. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I would support some more vertical landscaping.
That's what we meant to say. Vertical landscaping. I couldn't think of a better word.
Okay. How's the rest of the commission feel about the vertical landscaping?
I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
all right. What is the pleasure of the commission?
I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-26, a resolution of the Planning Commission approving SNA 2023-6 to construct a 3,550 square foot Panera Bread restaurant with the additional condition for vertical landscape on the west, and is the other one east? West and south walls, the blank walls there. With the drive-through, with the findings and conditions as stated in the staff report and the resolution.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, thank you. Is the motion clear? All right.
Yeah, so when the resolution or the revised finding is added, it would say that the applicant would need to submit revised landscape plans to show vertical landscaping on I think it's the beige portions of
Yes.
the west and south elevations.
West and south. You know what I did one time? Design, I'm always commenting on design, and one time I told the grocery outlet, I don't like the red in your sign. And they looked at me like I was crazy because their signs are red. So I'm like, well, what can they, that's what their sign is. It's the freestanding. They had to cut a tree down to put it there too. So I was already grumpy about it. And then I'm not a big red person. But the Wendy's looks good red, so yeah. But I did that one time because these folks come in and they have their way. Not too much variation there, you know, with the chain restaurants. So that was kind of funny. David got a kick out of that one.
Great. So we had a motion. Was there a second? I missed.
Yeah, Christine.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, Site and Architectural Review, 2022-10.
Thank you, Chairperson Henderson. This will also be Magda Gonzalez.
Site and Architectural Review 2022-10 proposes industrial shell warehouses. It is located at 1961-1965 Airway Drive. The project site is within the Airport Support Zoning District. It is comprised of 2 parcels, totaling 2 acres. To the north, east, and west is our parcel zoned air support. To the north is an industrial business park. To the southwest is a proposed storage facility that you heard earlier today, 1960-1970 Airway Drive. The project proposes 2 buildings, 2 manufacturing industrial shell warehouses. One will be 15,000 square feet. The other one will be 11,250 square feet. It will include parking, landscaping, 2 trash enclosures. The site currently does not have proposed tenants. Any future tenant will be required to come to the city and obtain approval for either interior or exterior modifications to the building or to the site, and for the city to be able to evaluate the parking needs or whatever, for whatever use they are proposing at that time. The site is also within, since it is within the Airport Support Zoning District, the future tenants would also be required to obtain approval from the Airport Land Use Commission. The applicant has provided this elevations showing just a general look of the parcel of the buildings, because it is expected that the future tenants will want to modify them and perhaps change the colors or add different signage. So the current elevations include parapet walls to disguise mechanical equipment, stucco walls, pre-finished gauge metal roofs. The buildings have a maximum height of 31 feet. And I'm sorry. To the front is they're proposing columns and windows, doors throughout. Copper stone veneer, doors, and signage, which will be reviewed under a different permit. One of the elevations includes a potential for solar, roof mount solar in the future, but that is not part of this proposal right now. Any future tenant that wants to include that, like I said, will have to come to the city and obtain approval. Both buildings have essentially the same materials throughout on all walls. This is a proposed landscaping. Most of it will be on the side of Airway Drive and on the side of the second building on the north and east side. The landscaping includes ground coverage, and it's going to be low water usage. This parcel has also been analyzed for general plan and zoning compliance. It is compliant with the Airport Support Zoning District, And as a part of the condition of approval, it will be required to comply with any Airport Land Use Commission conditions or restrictions. The staff will file a notice of determination because it has been deemed that any potential impacts to this site have been evaluated and mitigated through the mitigated negative declaration that was filed and completed for the Air Park Business Center. The Planning Commission has the option number 1 to adopt a resolution approving SNA 2022-10, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. Option number 2, adopt a resolution approving SNA 2022-10 with findings and conditions of approval modified by the Planning Commission. Option number 3, deny the proposed project. Or option number 4, continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt option number 1.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? And we'll open the public hearing at 7:53.
Thank you, Chairperson Henderson. I do have a speaker card for Carson Clower.
Yes, thank you again. There's a revised application for this where I'm actually the applicant. This has been on the books for a couple of years, winding its way back and forth through the planning department with different people involved at different times. I'd like to thank Magda again for her work on this. Also, Director Hopper and also City Manager Marioni were instrumental on getting this to where we are today. This is kind of a Field of Dreams deal where if we build it, they will come, and that's why you do have a shell building here. We're going to increase the industrial capacity of the city with these buildings, so that we don't have anybody lined up to move in right now, obviously, but there's a lot of very interesting ideas that float around out by the airport. They don't always come to fruition, but if you don't have any buildings for the businesses, they're not going to come at all. So appreciate you guys looking at this. Once again, the project engineer, Alan, is here for any questions that are technical in nature, and I'm here for more general. Thanks so much.
Any questions for Mr. Clower?
I do, or maybe it is for the engineer. It's just about the aesthetics of it. And so there are some walls that don't have the stone veneer. Is there a purpose for that?
So these are industrial buildings. The only view shed from the public right-of-way is along Airway Drive. So if we go to the landscape plan, we'll just see we've broken up the facade with like street trees planted along the parking. So when you see the building elevation, you're not seeing the trees in front of it because the intent is to show the building elevation. There are trees spaced along the front of each building along those parking aisles. The opposite side of the building where you see a real blank space, that's for a future aircraft hangar. A large door that could open up and accept an airplane. So in airport support, what we want to do in line with the general plan and the zoning for airport support is to provide spaces that could integrate and make the airport more functional. So especially on the east elevation, you're not going to see anything because we want to have the ability to drive a plane in. These buildings are very similar to the property to the north. It was built in the same fashion as a shell building and is now occupied by Zero Avia. So integrating, beautiful type aesthetics in an industrial setting are kind of contrary to the goals and the policies of the airport support zone. Yet along the public view shed, which is Airway Drive, similar to the RV storage project, we provide that large landscape buffer between the public street and the building that when you get on site becomes more functional, usable for the types of operations that would go on. So with the landscape plan up, you can see that everything to the south is Airway Drive is all landscape along the front of the building. To the east is where we have the parking, and it's quasi-public. It is a private street, private parking, but you do have the landscaping element there. But on the north of the buildings and to the east, you see no landscaping, no special decorations on the side of the building, because those we could potentially foresee being airport hangar doors for a plane to drive in.
But is that lot one of the through fence things?
Not at this time,
Okay,
because to get a through the fence permit, you actually have to have an airplane with a tail number.
okay.
And so when a tenant comes that has that, they will approach the city in the appropriate fashion to acquire the appropriate access permit.
Okay.
We have, developed these 3 parcels, these 2 and the one that's already occupied, so that there's nothing to prohibit that future potential for aircraft,
Okay.
but allow it to get built. And as Carson said, if you build it, they'll come. When they do come, the special circumstances that warrant future consideration by city staff or planning commission can be brought to you at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
How do you see this being used? You're talking about an airplane hangar. So what industry do you see occupying these buildings?
Everything that's allowed within your airport support zoning, there's a list in your code that you could reference, and those would be the potential suitors, whoever's marketing the sale or lease of these buildings will be looking for users that fulfill those specific categories within the airport support zone. As it's designed right now with no airplane, they're set up to be general manufacturing, and that's why you see a lot of parking stalls in the back that would be, depending on whoever occupies the space, when they go to get tenant improvements, minor site modifications with regard to those accesses, large doors, whatever that user needs at that time is set up to be integrated when we know who those specific tenants are.
I do believe that it still could have some aesthetic value, at least to the tops of the buildings. People are going to work. They also want to work in a nice looking building.
These are designed in the same fashion as all the other Hollister Business Park and buildings around the Airway Drive. So, it's to the same standard that's been generally accepted through the standard of practice for beautifications of buildings in industrial zones. Like on the other project, you guys feel free to request another specific condition of approval to beautify an industrial building. That's your purview.
I don't get too hyped up on industrial buildings. Landscaping, yes, but they are trying to bring something here, and he doesn't even have a client yet. So I gotta give him props for that. I've never really, unless it's fronting the road, I don't give that too much for myself, because I am trying to get it put in. But I am glad for all the landscaping, obviously. So I can't honestly be supportive to that. I'm sorry, just myself.
Yeah, we're still in the
because-
public hearing.
Yeah.
Are there any other
Oh, sorry,
any other
Chairman.
speakers?
I have no other speakers, Chairperson Henderson.
Okay, thank you. We will close the public hearing at 8 o'clock. Okay, any other comments?
While it is, what has been a certain way, I think it is nice to have changes. My dad was a welder. I grew up in industrial areas, so having nice buildings to go to, even if it isn't trellises along the walls, which I wasn't talking about. It could even be some types of awnings or something on the tops, near the roofs, or however, giving different facades or whatever. Could make it appealing.
So I think the point about the facade or the elevation that faces the runway, that I agree that needs to stay just plain, because it needs to have a door that opens up. So So you're proposing beautifying that door or another one?
No, so I understand that. So that wouldn't necessarily be possible, but even just changing like the roof line, a facade for it, not having to change the roof line, but changing a facade for it.
There's some sample pictures on the plans here. They have sample pictures of the landscaping. And if you look at their sample pictures here, I mean, there's a little bit of, this is actually, I don't, it's not on the plan for,
Similar buildings
Yeah.
that they were on the plan, huh?
on the plan. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I saw that.
they had like an awning in the middle of the building that kind of gave it a little bit of character, I guess.
Maybe that was on a different one. I don't remember.
Like right here.
That was on a different one I'm thinking
Looks
of.
like an awning in the middle instead of it just being a flat face front of the building.
You have a good point, Commissioner Rossi, because you're right. We should always look to improve. You know, I understand the reasoning behind you wanting that. I've just sort of dealt with industrial buildings, and they make some nice looking ones too. We do have some good looking
I believe
industrial
it's
buildings.
number 9. Yeah. Off to the right there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's the picture.
I believe these are photos of the Zero Avia building, which is to the north of the proposed project. So this is an existing building nearby.
I think the applicant would like to make a comment, so we'll open up the public hearing again just to receive your comment.
Thank you. And to add lipstick to a pig is kind of where I'm afraid I don't want you to get into that. But I'll leave it to you. Thank you for letting me make that additional comment.
So it's gonna match similar to this then. The front facing the street would have that awning across the middle of it.
Not across the whole building on these buildings.
Okay.
The architect proposed them only at the doorways.
Okay.
Because, you know, one could say that having it across the whole front was another routine element, and the architect felt that breaking it up with doing it at the spot where it would provide the most benefit to the building, as far as functionality with shade and rain protection at the door, was more important than providing an awning along the whole frontage that didn't necessarily provide the change in the aesthetic. So, you know, you got blank walls, but we do have trees in front of those on the public viewable side. And the side that is airport oriented is bare for function.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing again. Any further discussion? So Commissioner Lenore, are you leaning towards any additional conditions?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, I'm not as well, expecting any, I'm not gonna request, not advocating for any more further conditions. So, I guess,
Still 3 left.
yep, so we know. So I don't know if Commissioner Ross, if you want to clarify what the condition would be, or and the other two commissioners can weigh in on.
So, do you have any images of what it would look like with this broken up, just sectioned? I guess that's asking public comment.
So since it's the applicant, do we have to really open the public comment to talk to the applicant more, or?
So they're showing the the area where
Okay.
what he was talking about above the doors is the trellis element, or on all of the entry doors, the main entry doors, right in that, yeah.
And so then that division, that horizontal line underneath the top windows is just a line. It's not like what we see in the sample images.
You guys should put a foam border there, you know. That's maybe what she would like too. You know what I'm talking about?
Or take that stone veneer and have
Yeah.
some vertical on the corners, or like accents in the center or something, or even take it up along the top.
Happy to move around to any elevation in particular. I believe right now we are looking at the parcel 1 building west elevation. So this is the closest to airway, but the elevation that faces the private drive entrance here. But I can go to any building, any side, if you tell me where you'd like to see.
Yeah, I just would recommend having some more of that copper stone veneer that you have. I mean, it's maybe something that's more vertical or something that's going along the top, especially if these the overhangs are just over the doors. Adding some element to that blank space that's quite large and above at the top there. What are thoughts? I know two people are a no.
Yeah, if the other two commissioners, if you could weigh in.
As for me, I'm actually pretty content with the applicant's clarification. It's the same, but yet different. Instead of keeping the same cookie cutter, they changed it up a little bit to keep it uniform, but yet it's got a little hint of its own. So I'm with you as well as Commissioner Lenore.
I'm okay with the plan the way it is. I just wanted to open it up to hear what your suggestions were, so.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-27, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Hollister approving SNA 2022-10 to construct 2 manufacturing industrial shell buildings at 1961 and 1965 Airway Drive with the findings and conditions as stated in the staff report and the resolution as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. So we'll take a roll call vote if you don't mind.
Commissioner Ross,
Approve.
Vice Chair Belong,
Aye.
Commissioner Corona,
Aye.
Commissioner Lenore,
Aye.
Chair Henderson.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Chair Henderson, if I may, could I clarify who was the second? I missed it. Was it Commissioner Corona? Thank you.
Okay, we are to our last item. Conditional use, number 8, conditional use permit 2023-8.
Thank you. This will be Magda as well.
The applicant for conditional use permit 2023-3 is Opal Fuels. They are proposing a CNG fueling facility and vehicle storage. The property is located north of Gibbs Road. The project site is highlighted with this blue outline. Adjacent to it are other industrial uses to the north and east of the parcel. To the northwest is San Benito Rockery. The project is proposing to be an accessory use to San Benito Rockery, which is a legal non-conforming use. Here's a proposed site plan. Part of the existing site is being used as material and vehicle storage. They are proposing to store vehicles for the adjacent property at 151 Hillcrest, and to also install a fueling station to be used solely by the employees of the adjacent company. These are pictures of the existing site. They are proposing one access, which would be through this gate that currently doesn't align with the driveway. As you can see, the materials that are being stored there, they're not technically approved for storing those materials at that site at this time. These are pictures of the fence and the landscaping that's existing on the site. It is minimal and doesn't meet requirements for the zoning. These are the elevations that they propose for the fueling station, the equipment, and schematics for that dispensing system as well. And pictures of other facilities that they have where they actually have installed that fueling system and the typical equipment that they are proposing for that site. As I previously mentioned, they are proposing this site to be an accessory use to San Benito Rockery, which is currently located within the neighborhood mixed use zoning, and it is a legal non-conforming use. The subject property is zoned light industrial and is allowed to have a service station, but the code requires it to be reviewed independently and meet landscape requirements, access, and the development code also does not allow the expansion of a legal non-conforming use as they are currently proposing. Staff has provided this information to the applicant on numerous occasions in writing, and I believe those were provided in the documents we've provided to you. As I previously mentioned, the general plan indicates that no non-conforming use of land shall be enlarged, increased, or extended to occupy a greater area of land than what was occupied when it became non-conforming. That is one of the main reasons why staff cannot recommend approval of this project. Additionally, what they're proposing with the existing site, it only has 1% of the site is only landscape. The zoning district requires for it to be at least 10%. They are proposing to add an additional 1.3% of landscaping, which would bring a total of 2.3% landscape, which is still substantially below what is required for that site. Additionally, there are issues with the access to the site. It doesn't align directly with the driveway, and that is something that could be accommodated with the site because it does have adequate frontage to provide a driveway that meets the development section. It also, the access isn't consistent with the width and length that are required within the development code. As previously mentioned, the service station can apply to establish that use, but it would require for them to meet the requirements set within the zoning code when it comes to landscaping, when it comes to access, when it comes to a number of other sites. And it's also inconsistent with the zoning requirement because they are currently storing vehicles and materials, and it's not permitted. The project is exempt from CEQA subject to section 15270 because it is a project that a public agency will reject or recommends to reject or disapprove. If the project or the applicant brings the proposal for a service station and wishes to establish that as its own independent use, they will be required to provide additional environmental review. And because it doesn't qualify for an infill exemption because it is larger than 5 acres. So staff recommends, the Planning Commission has two options at this point. Option number 1 is to adopt a resolution denying CUP 2023-3, subject to the findings contained within the resolution. Option number 2, to continue the hearing and direct staff to provide additional information or clarification. Staff's recommendation is for option number 1. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff from the commission?
Not right now.
When you're talking about the landscaping, I think I didn't hear exactly what you said, but did you say that their current landscaping does not meet the current standard?
Correct, yeah. The current zoning requires them to landscape 10% of the site. What they currently have is 1%, and they are proposing to add 1.3% for a total of 2.3, which is still substantially below the 10% required.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions, we can open the public hearing at 8:19. Any speakers?
I do not have any speaker cards. Let me check the virtual audience. I do not have any hands raised in the virtual audience.
Yeah, sure, please come speak.
Yes, go ahead.
Just state your name. Thank you.
My name is Marcia Medina. I'm representing Opal Fuels and Star Concrete, our client, for whom the property belongs to. So I did want to take the opportunity just to clarify what the main purpose and use is going to be for this particular system. So we want to install the system, mainly the customer began looking into installing this mainly to comply with the Advanced Clean Fuels regulation that was put in place by California Air Resources Board. Our client does fall into the heavy trucking fleet requirements, so they do want to go down to zero emissions or just a cleaner energy. As you know, CNG will be able to meet that requirement. So this particular project will, customer believes, we also believe, will benefit the city as a whole, mainly because we will not be adding any additional fleet. We will be replacing the existing diesel with CNG trucks. So that in and of itself will lower the carbon emissions, just the carbon footprint that the customer is currently producing. That will not only will that decrease traffic in the area by having his trucks go from different fueling stations, that will also just limit the amount of emissions that are being released in order to find different stations and different diesel locations. Also, it's going to free up, there won't be trucks that'll be running around the gas stations, taking up extra spots. Once the trucks get to this location where they belong, they will just be going back to the 249 Hillcrest, which is the parcel behind the 151. And they will fuel up there. It's not going to be vehicle storage. What we do show are time fill areas where they will fuel. It takes approximately 6 to 8 hours to fuel at any given time, and then they will be leaving those spots and going to where the existing parking stations are for those trucks. So it will be strictly for fueling. It is all outdoor. There's no emissions. We do fall under CEQA exemptions. We do stations all over California. And we just don't see a negative to this. The only thing, what this will allow is just, if we don't do this station, the customer will not be changing his fleet from diesel. He will keep diesel, and it'll just limit another company's access to green energy. So if there's any questions from there on. And I also have the engineer on hand to answer any questions in regards to landscaping and zoning ordinances as well.
Thank you. So you mentioned that it takes 6 to 8 hours to fuel with CNG.
For the time fill locations, yes. It's a slow fill location where the trucks are off and they connect, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours to slow fuel, yes.
Okay.
We also do have a fast fill dispenser as well. And that one takes considerably less time. I believe it takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
Question.
Yes.
So currently, they're all diesel and no CNG?
Correct.
I mean, I know MBARD's all wanting to do that, but okay, that was my question.
And I'd like to reiterate, this is only for the customer's private fleet. It's not open to the public.
Yeah.
It's no requirement for anyone to be, it's not a manned station. All the employees will be trained to operate the station in terms of any emergency issues and just any day-to-day operations.
Okay. So how long does, I don't know, maybe the applicant can speak to it. I just want to know, what is the long-term plan for this business? I mean, is this, they intend, even if they don't get the CNG, are they planning to stay long-term?
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other speaker cards and no hands raised.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing at 8:24. So what are the thoughts from the commission? I personally I like CNG. I think it's good to encourage more use of it. Yeah, I personally don't have a big problem with someone installing their own private fueling station for a business that's already been there, and they're just trying to improve what they have. So that's my initial thoughts.
Well,
I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks.
of course I'm going to say something, because the planner in me is telling me it's ancillary to a legal non-conforming use. And I can't do that. I just can't do that, and I hate to say no. I'm not a no person. I'm a yes person. But I can't violate that. I just can't do that. I worked in that all those years, and man, I wish it was a better site, and and I understand the need for the changeover from diesel, and they are under the gun to get it done. All the truckers across all the spectrum, they're looking at some heavy deadlines to convert. Doggone it. I just from a planning end and not a use end, understand it, but I can't go against the legal non-conforming use. That wouldn't be there unless the rockery was there, and it's part of the rockery, and you can't expand legal non-conforming use. So that's where I have to fall on this one. Thank you.
Other thoughts from the commission?
I agree with Councilwoman Lenore. Sorry, Commissioner. Thank you.
Oh, that was my other hat. And I like this hat better.
So I'm trying to understand what is the path to getting the CNG and also being conforming with what the regulation staff is addressing right now?
So In order to consider the service station, it would have to be designed so that it's kind of, it could still be a private service station, and it could still be a CNG service station, but we'd have to look at the M1 industrial site as a standalone. It couldn't have main access being its accessory to the rockery. It would have to have fully conforming access from Gibbs. You would be looking at parking, although that might be limited in the case of a service station. You'd be looking at whether it complies with the service station or requirements of the code, as well as the M1 requirements of the zoning ordinance, making sure that the site as a standalone use would comply with the code and the general plan. You wouldn't be looking at an expansion of the rockery site, although it could be proposed by the rockery. They would have to drive around the block because it's just how the two parcels, they connect in a small area where they're proposing to connect, but you would have to be looking at this, I think it's like 6 acres, 5 acres site as an M1 site that you are developing in the industrial zoning district. So the user wouldn't particularly matter. It could be private, public, but you'd be looking at the development of the site individually. So there would need to be some redesigns, and then you'd be looking at any conditions that you would apply to a service station use in that area.
So it might be possible.
Yes, so service station is a permitted use in the M1 industrial zoning district, which the area where this is proposed is an allowed use. It's just complicated by the fact that the rockery business itself is non-conforming because that's not zoned M1. That's zoned neighborhood mixed use. So that when the general plan and then the subsequent zoning of the site changed it to neighborhood mixed use, it became non-conforming. So you're not allowed to expand that. And the reason behind that is because in the adoption of that general plan, the current general plan, the city had a desire for that use to at some point change to neighborhood mixed use. So that's how it's currently zoned and designated in the general plan. But this M1 site individually could develop with a conforming M1 use. It could be a service station, which requires a conditional use permit, or it could be a general manufacturing, or even a rockery is an allowed use in the M1. So this site, you would be looking at a proposal to meet all the zoning requirements, just like our other sites that we look at, where you look at, is it compliant with the industrial business park, or is it compliant with the airport support, just like our industrial sites that you've looked at other tonight.
So is there potential for a public entity that would want to service this business and other businesses as well?
I guess the answer is yes. There's kind of any use that's allowed in M1 would be an allowed use on this site. But I suppose the proposal would have to be by the proposer. If they're proposing something private, that would be something that you'd be looking at. If they're proposing something public and private, that would be something you're looking at. So we'd have to see the proposal and the use business plan that's part of the CUP process.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, what is the pleasure of the commission?
I move that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-28, 28, correct?
That's correct.
A resolution of the Planning Commission denying conditional use permit 2023 to install a CNG fueling facility and parking for use by Star Concrete on Gibbs Drive and on Gibbs Drive, I guess. With the findings for denial as presented in the staff report.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you. We have a motion as second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
Through the chair, just as a informational for the applicant, there is I believe it's
A 15-day appeal period.
to the city council.
Yes.
And just contact the planning department for those, that information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Any new business?
I do not have any new business.
Okay, old business?
I do not have any old business.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure, why is this heading here, study session items? I guess we don't have any, or you'd have something listed there?
Sometimes we'll put on what we're looking at for the next study session.
Okay.
At this point, we didn't.
No, so because we've been having regular study sessions, we're holding this format. There might be at our study sessions a public hearing and a study session item.
Okay.
So I think we can remove it, but it's just a holdover from keeping the same format of the
Okay.
agenda at both types of meetings.
So it's a
we're having.
placeholder. So just future reference, if there's nothing listed there, do I even need to say it, or do I just skip over it? I'm just curious. What's the best way to handle that?
You can skip it. There's no reason to talk about it, but, or maybe staff could write no items to discuss or something underneath.
Yeah, we could
That'd be
begin writing
helpful.
no items.
Okay, yeah, that would make it more clear. Also, verification is misspelled for verification of agenda posting.
It is. We'll correct that.
Okay. It's been there for months. I keep forgetting to bring it up. Okay, we'll move on. So there's no planning department reports listed. Is there anything from the commission?
Oh, I did have one thing.
Oh,
just
okay.
to announce, the city of Hollister has opened up the position for building official. So just for all of you out in the ether, and planning manager. So I believe building official closes on September 11th, and then I believe planning manager closes somewhere on the 20th or 21st. So those are the next two in our saga of staffing up.
I do have a report as well, Chairperson Henderson, if I may. The City Council will hold a study session on the general plan update, the climate action plan, the ag preservation program, and also the inclusionary housing ordinance on September 11th. That's a Monday, and that begins at 4 p.m. We're anticipating a relatively long discussion with the council, so that begins a little earlier at 4 p.m. on September 11th. So that's a city council study session on those items.
And just for additional information, it's similar to what the Planning Commission was providing a recommendation to City Council on the draft general plan. What the City Council's actions will be is something very similar. We're looking at kind of, are there modifications that they're going to be recommending or directing staff to make to the general plan update? Depending upon what happens at the council, then we look at if the environmental document needs to be modified and potentially recirculated, and then modifications would be made to the general plan update, and then the city would start adoption hearings. So that's kind of in general what after September 11th, we'll know more after we get direction from the council.
Done here, right?
You're done here, yes.
Planning Commission.
Well, until you come up to the adoption hearings.
What about the EIR to the general plan? I mean, we didn't.
You will.
That's just a recommendation to the council
All-
for certification.
You were doing a recommendation on the components of the general plan, the climate action plan. You did. You made that recommendation on modifications you wanted to see in the general plan update. No, that will, as we come back with the final EIR, that's when during the adoption hearings, that's when you will take action on both on all of the components of the general plan update.
All right, any reports from the commission? Okay, no one.
I gotta say, I think we did a good job tonight, and there's some good things coming for Hollister, and I'm really proud to be up here with you guys, making some good decisions, so, I think we did a good job tonight.
Yeah, eight items in 2.5 hours. It's really good. Yeah.
Staff, I noticed your staff reports, I gotta give you a compliment, I like how you put what it is and the proposed and, what it needs to be as far as setbacks, that little chart you make there, that's very helpful. So, your staff reports are reading really nice, so, got it all sectioned off good, your resolutions are in order, it's, good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. If there's no other business for this meeting, we will adjourn at 8:37 p.m.